What if I told you that the most underestimated metal in America, the metal most people associate with jewelry, coins, and old family cups, is suddenly being treated with the same national urgency as uranium and rare earth elements? What if I told you that for the first time in U.S. history, the government has officially declared silver a critical mineral, and that weeks before this announcement, 75 million ounces quietly vanished from global inventories? Why would the U.S., the world's largest financial superpower, sound an alarm over a metal most people stopped paying attention to decades ago? And more importantly, what does Washington know that the rest of the world hasn't realized yet? Because once you pull the thread, the story becomes stranger, darker, and far more consequential than anyone expected. This is not just about silver, it's about energy, technology, national security, and a problem the U.S. can no longer hide. To understand why silver is suddenly being treated as a critical mineral, we need to go back to the last time the U.S. openly worried about running out of a metal. It wasn't gold, it wasn't oil, and it wasn't copper. It was during the Cold War, when the U.S. realized that whoever controlled strategic materials controlled geopolitics. For decades, the U.S. quietly accumulated massive silver reserves under the Defense National Stockpile Program. At one point, the government held more than 2 billion ounces, enough to power defense systems, electronics, and entire industries. But by the early 2000s, all of that silver had been sold. Washington assumed silver was outdated, replaceable, and no longer essential. They believed global supply would remain abundant forever. They believed wrong, and that mistake is now coming back to haunt them. Silver isn't just a shiny metal. It's the single best conductor of electricity known to science. It is a silent backbone of modern life, hidden inside solar panels, electric vehicles, satellite systems, microchips, 5G networks, missile guidance systems, radar imaging, and high-efficiency batteries. As the world electrifies, faster than at any point in human history, silver consumption has exploded. A single electric car requires dozens of sensors, conductors, and components that rely on silver. Solar panels alone now consume roughly 1/5 of the global silver supply each year, nearly triple their usage a decade ago. Military systems rely on silver because no other metal can match its reliability under extreme stress. Yet, unlike gold, most silver is consumed permanently. Once it's embedded in electronics or solar cells, it is effectively gone forever. And for more than 10 years in a row, the world has mined less silver than it has consumed. The global silver industry entered a structural deficit, a gap that widens every year. Around 2018, a silent tipping point arrived. Solar installations surged worldwide. Electric vehicle production doubled. Semiconductor manufacturing expanded aggressively. Defense budgets skyrocketed. All of these sectors devoured silver at unprecedented rates, but mining output remained flat, and ore grades continued to decline. No major new silver discoveries were made. Many of the world's largest deposits were aging or nearing depletion. Analysts warned of tightening supply, but their warnings went largely ignored. Then the inventories began to vanish. Starting in 2020, vast quantities of physical silver disappeared from major vaults and exchanges. COMEX and the London bullion market saw massive withdrawals. Industrial buyers signed long-term supply contracts. Solar manufacturers began aggressively stockpiling silver. Defense contractors quietly entered the market. Within months, more than $75 million ounces of silver vanished from visible global inventories. Not stolen, withdrawn. The identity of these buyers remains unknown, but the consequences were impossible to ignore. Demand at record highs, supply hitting multi-decade lows, and vault inventories draining at the fastest pace analysts had ever seen. Miniature crises began appearing across global supply chains. Some solar manufacturers warned of bottlenecks. Some electronics makers signaled rising costs. The U.S. government, after months of internal review and escalating warnings, made a historic decision. Silver would now be classified as a critical mineral. That single label changes everything. It unlocks federal funding, accelerates domestic mining permits, triggers strategic stockpile planning, and elevates silver to the same geopolitical category as rare earth metals, materials essential to national security and clean energy dominance. But declaring silver critical does not magically solve the problem. Recycling can't fill the gap. Most consumed silver is impossible to recover economically. Substitution is a fantasy. No metal matches silver's conductivity, thermal performance, or stability in cutting-edge applications. Mining more silver is also extremely difficult because silver is rarely mined alone. It is usually a byproduct of mining lead, zinc, copper, or gold. That means silver supply depends on entirely different industries' production rates. Even if the U.S. poured billions into mining immediately, it would take years, possibly decades, to reverse the deficit. The world is now facing a modern resource crisis with striking historical parallels. In the 1960s, the U.S. removed silver from its coinage because the country was running out. Prices spiked, supply collapsed. The government panicked, Today, the same pattern is repeating, but this time it's not just the US, it's global. For the first time in modern economic history, silver demand is powered by three unstoppable forces at the same time: explosive clean energy expansion, mass electrification, and rapidly advancing military technologies. Every chart, mining output, industrial consumption, ore grades, inventory levels, shows the same alarming direction: downward supply, upward demand, shrinking reserves, accelerating deficits, a global technological race built on a metal the world assumed would never run out. Yet now, the US is signaling the opposite: danger, scarcity, and strategic urgency. If current trends continue, silver could become the first essential industrial metal to enter a severe long-term supply crisis. This isn't a temporary boom and bust cycle. It's a structural collision between physics, economics, and geopolitics. Every industry that relies on electrification, solar companies, EV manufacturers, chip makers, and defense contractors, will feel the shock. The world built its green and digital future on a metal that may not be able to keep up, and the US is finally acknowledging it. There are three key lessons here. First, silver is no longer just a precious metal. It has become an industrial lifeline, absolutely essential to modern technology. Second, demand and supply are diverging in a way the world has never seen before. Mining is stagnant while consumption is accelerating at a record pace. And third, the US designation signals the beginning of a new era of resource competition, where nations race to secure materials that determine economic and military power. If the world continues down this path, a silver crisis is inevitable. Not a minor shortage, a global disruption with consequence across energy, technology, and security. The real question isn't whether a silver crunch is coming. The real question is, who will be prepared when it arrives? If you found this breakdown valuable and want more deep dives into the hidden forces shaping our future, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss these investigations. The next major shift is already unfolding, and silver is just the beginning.